Neurodivergent children in New Zealand have the same rights as any other child to education, to quality inclusive education. And the 2020 Education and Training Act actually specifies very clearly that every child has the right to enroll at their local mainstream school. They also have the right to full-time attendance at a school wherever they attend. There's a little flexibility built in where if children require some reduced hours of attendance or they need a slower transition into school, either at the beginning or even later on in their late teen sort of years or anything like that, early teens, late teens, they have the flexibility of having a graduated transition plan, reducing their hours of attendance and slowly building them up to full time. So in short, every child has the right to quality inclusive education in New Zealand. And one of the ways in which you can make that happen is through the individual education plan. Having a good partnership with schools, really making sure you're working alongside them. The other thing is having a really good understanding of the rights of disabled people as defined in the UNCRPD as well. Individual education plan ideally has to be a collaborative effort that engages the family, the student most importantly, places the student at the center, and also has the professionals who are supporting the student. So whoever that is, the class teacher, if they have a teacher aide, if they have a specialist teacher, then, the specialist teacher. And it's all about coming together and prioritizing some goals for the child and making sure that their learning needs are met. But also making sure that their well-being, is met and the, wider sort of holistic, well-being of the student is considered in the educational context. One of the key things with individual education plans is they must be linked to the New Zealand curriculum because that's what they are. They're all about supporting the education and learning for the child. And they should clearly identify any accommodations, adaptations, any additional resources that the student might need to be able to successfully participate in their education. One of the other things to just bear in mind when you are looking at IEPs specifically for our neurodivergent children is to make sure that they are strengths-based, they are interest-based, and they actually consider the preferences, the interests, the learning styles of the individual student in question. Also making sure that there's some good monitoring put in place to, just keep eye on how are things rolling along, the goals set, the outcomes set, the task set within that IEP. So really important that we have clarity on who is going to be involved, who needs to be involved, and what everybody's role is, how is everybody contributing to the IEP, and then also just monitoring that implementation of the IEP to make sure that things are chugging along appropriately and in a timely manner.
Thank you, Frian. Gosh, that's helpful. And to know that it's so much more than just an academic focus, that the whole child is considered, their well-being, their social needs, their ability to engage, to have that true inclusion within that school environment. That
Absolutely.
is wonderful.
And I think this is one of the things, Karen, that often parents don't even know or understand what inclusion means. And so it's really important that we, as parents and educators, really understand what inclusion means, what belonging means for our children. And it might look different for, different children, but it's important we hear their voice and we make sure we support them accordingly.